Rain drizzled over the bustling streets of San Francisco, city lights reflecting off the slick pavement. Nathan Reed sat in silence by the floor-to-ceiling window of his lavish penthouse, his piercing blue eyes staring down at the world below. 3 years ago, this world had been his. At 34, Nathan was a legend in the tech industry, the CEO of Reed Tech, an AI company revolutionizing human connection. He had everything: success, power, and a future that seemed limitless. But in one fateful moment, everything collapsed. One rainy night, 1 second of distraction behind the wheel, and a brutal accident stole his legs from him. From that day forward, Nathan was never the same. Friends drifted away, his fiancée walked out on him. Everything he had once believed in, control, invincibility, was gone. Now he was left with nothing but himself, trapped in a luxury prison, convinced that the world had turned its back on him for good. But fate wasn't done with Nathan yet. A chance encounter was about to change everything. 3 years ago, Nathan Reed had the world at his feet. At just 34, he was the mastermind behind Reed Tech, a company that redefined human connection through artificial intelligence. His name commanded respect, his vision shaped industries, and his future seemed limitless. But success came at a cost. Sleepless nights, a relentless schedule, and an emptiness that no amount of wealth could fill. Then, in a single devastating moment, everything changed. On a stormy night, after leaving a high-profile company event, Nathan took an urgent call while driving. A second of distraction was all it took. The car skidded on the rain-slicked road and crashed into a guardrail. When he woke up, his world had shifted forever. Nathan was diagnosed with permanent paralysis from the waist down. At first, he tried to remain hopeful, believing that his sheer determination would help him adapt. But reality proved to be far harsher. His fiancée left him, unwilling to commit to a future she hadn't signed up for. Friends slowly drifted away, unsure of how to handle his new reality. Though his company still thrived, Nathan became a ghost, managing everything remotely, never making public appearances. His world shrank to the confines of his sprawling but empty penthouse, where he spent his days staring at computer screens, signing contracts, and attending virtual meetings. He made sure no one saw him, and he didn't want to see anyone. At night, the silence in his home was deafening, a painful reminder of all he had lost. Despite having everything money could buy, luxury, power, and influence, Nathan felt hollow. He convinced himself that people had only cared about him for what he could offer, not for who he truly was. So, he shut them all out, telling himself it was for the best. But fate wasn't done with him yet. A chance encounter was about to change everything. Across the city, Emily Dawson, 29, was busy making breakfast for her little boy, Leo. As a single mother, she juggled 2 part-time jobs while pursuing a degree in psychology. Life wasn't easy, but she always found a reason to smile. She believed that happiness could be found in the smallest things: a warm cup of coffee, a tight hug from Leo, or simply helping a stranger in need. Leo, a 6-year-old with a vivid imagination, loved drawing superheroes. But to him, superheroes weren't just the ones wearing capes and flying through the sky. They were the people who stayed strong even when life got tough. And to Leo, his mom was the greatest superhero of all, someone who never gave up, no matter how difficult things got. That morning, as Emily hurried to drop Leo off at school before heading to work, they passed a small cafe near the park. She noticed a man in a wheelchair struggling to push open the door. Without hesitation, she stepped forward and held it open for him. "Here, let me help you," she said kindly. The man looked up, his piercing blue eyes meeting her warm brown ones. He hesitated for a moment before giving a small nod. "Thanks," he muttered as he wheeled himself inside. Emily didn't think much of it. She had always believed that even the smallest act of kindness could make a difference. But for Nathan, that brief interaction lingered in his mind. He hadn't seen pity in her eyes. There was no awkwardness, no forced politeness, just kindness. Something he hadn't experienced in a long, long time. Nathan rarely left his penthouse. The outside world was too loud, too overwhelming, and most of all, a constant reminder of everything he had lost. But that morning, he found himself back at the small cafe near the park. the very place where he had met Emily. He told himself it was just for the coffee, but deep down, he knew there was another reason. He wanted to see if she and her son would return. And just like before, Emily walked in, balancing 2 cups of coffee while Leo chattered excitedly about his day at school. "Hey, we meet again," she said with a warm smile as she passed Nathan's table. Nathan simply nodded, unsure of what to say, but Leo had no hesitation. The boy ran up to him, his eyes wide with curiosity, as he pointed at Nathan's wheelchair. "Are you a superhero?" Leo asked, his voice full of excitement. Nathan blinked in surprise. It had been a long time since anyone had asked him something like that. No, it's just a wheelchair," he said, caught off guard. Leo shook his head. "But it looks so cool. You look like a superhero in it." Nathan couldn't help but chuckle, a sound he hadn't heard from himself in years. Emily rushed over, looking slightly embarrassed. "Leo, don't bother him." But Nathan shook his head. "It's fine." That brief encounter, so simple yet so unexpected, left a mark on Nathan in a way he hadn't anticipated. Over the next few days, he found himself coming back to the cafe more often, and each time, he secretly hoped to see Emily and Leo again. With each passing day, Nathan found that the small cafe wasn't just a place for coffee anymore. It had become a place where he felt connected, something he hadn't experienced in years. Somehow, Emily and Leo had begun to break down the walls he had built around himself. One quiet afternoon, when the cafe wasn't too crowded, Emily sat down across from Nathan, stirring her cup of tea. "So, do you live around here?" she asked casually. Nathan nodded. "Not far. I used to come here a lot before things changed." Emily didn't press further. She knew exactly what he meant. She didn't see him as broken. She simply saw a man trying to find his way back. But just as Nathan started to believe he could open up again, everything came crashing down. The next day in his office, Nathan was reviewing applications for the foundation he was launching, a project aimed at helping people rebuild their lives after life-altering accidents. He flipped through a stack of documents, then suddenly froze. The name on the application read Emily Dawson. Her file detailed her struggles as a single mother, working multiple jobs while trying to earn her psychology degree. She had applied for financial aid to help cover tuition and childcare expenses. Nathan felt a deep, stinging ache in his chest. So was this why she had been so kind to him? Had she really cared, or had this all been some calculated move? The next day, Nathan went to the cafe, but this time, his gaze wasn't warm, it was guarded. Emily noticed immediately. "Is everything okay?" she asked, concerned. Nathan set his coffee down with a controlled but deliberate motion. His jaw tightened as he exhaled sharply. "I saw your application, Emily." His voice was calm, too calm. Emily blinked in confusion. "My application?" Nathan let out a hollow laugh. "For the foundation, you didn't think I'd find out." Emily's heart dropped. "Nathan, I didn't know you were behind it. I applied because I needed help, but I never expected..." But Nathan cut her off, his voice sharp. "So, what was your plan? Get close to me, earn my trust, and then hope I'd approve your request?" Emily felt like she had been punched in the gut. "Nathan, it's not like that. I had no idea you were even involved." But Nathan had let his pain and fear cloud his judgment. "I thought you were different, but I guess I was wrong." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she whispered, "If you can't trust me, then maybe you never really knew me at all." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Nathan alone with his doubts and regrets. The following days were filled with regret. Nathan didn't return to the cafe, nor did he reach out to Emily. He locked himself in his penthouse, but this time, the silence wasn't a choice. It was a punishment. He couldn't focus on work. Every time he tried to drown himself in business, memories of Emily and Leo haunted him. Her last words echoed in his mind. "If you can't trust me, then maybe you never really knew me at all." Nathan had spent years believing the world had abandoned him, but now, he realized, he was the one who pushed people away. One evening, as he sat in front of his laptop, staring blankly at the screen, there was a knock on the door. When he opened it, he was stunned. Leo stood there, clutching a small sketchbook. "My mom doesn't know I'm here," the boy admitted, shuffling his feet. "But I wanted to give you this." Nathan hesitated before taking the sketchbook. As he flipped through the pages, his throat tightened. The drawings were of them, Nathan, Emily, and Leo. They were laughing in the cafe, sitting in the park, even one where Nathan wore a cape like a superhero. "You're still a superhero, you know," Leo said matter-of-factly, his small fingers gripping the sketchbook tightly. "Even superheroes mess up sometimes, but they always fix things." Nathan felt a sharp pang in his chest. "Leo, ice." But the boy was already running off, leaving Nathan standing there, holding pages filled with love and innocence. The next day, Nathan knew what he had to do. He went to the cafe, but Emily wasn't there. Desperate to make things right, he asked for her address. When Emily opened the door and saw Nathan, her expression was unreadable, guarded, cold. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Nathan took a deep breath. "I came to apologize." Emily crossed her arms, her gaze still guarded. "An apology? You think that's enough?" Nathan nodded, but his voice was filled with sincerity. "I know words aren't enough, but I need you to know the truth. I was afraid, not of you, but of losing you. Like, I lost everyone else." Emily studied him carefully, her expression softening slightly. "Do you really believe I was only with you for the money?" Nathan shook his head instantly. "No, I was wrong. You're not like them, and I should have seen that from the start." Silence hung between them. Then Emily sighed, the hurt in her eyes slowly fading. "Nathan, trust is everything. If we're going to move forward, you have to trust me." Nathan met her gaze, no longer hesitant. "I do. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it to you." Emily didn't answer right away, but when a small smile tugged at her lips, Nathan knew the door hadn't closed completely. Winter in San Francisco was colder than usual, but inside Nathan Reed, a fire of warmth and happiness burned brightly. No longer did he spend his nights in a cold, empty penthouse. No longer did he feel that crushing emptiness inside him. Now, every morning, he had a reason to smile. His days began with the sound of laughter filling the apartment. Leo jumping onto his bed, wrapping his small arms around Nathan's neck, shouting, "Wake up, Uncle Nathan! Superheroes don't sleep in." Nathan chuckled, pulling the boy into a tight hug. "Even superheroes need their rest, kiddo." Emily stood at the doorway, arms crossed, watching them with a smile full of love. From the moment Nathan entered their lives, he had become an irreplaceable part of their world. In the afternoons, Nathan often took Emily and Leo to the park. He would sit in his wheelchair, watching Leo run around, his laughter echoing through the golden sunset. One evening, as Nathan wheeled himself along the path, Emily walked beside him, her hand slipping into his naturally. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly. Nathan turned his head, frowning slightly. "Regret what?" Emily met his gaze. "Letting us into your life." Nathan let out a soft laugh, shaking his head. "No, Emily. If I regret anything, it's not realizing sooner how much I need you and Leo." Emily smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder, her heartbeat steady and calm against him. Their Saturday nights were reserved for just the two of them. No work, no responsibilities, just Nathan and Emily, lost in the quiet beauty of each other's presence. One night, they sat at a small seaside restaurant, candlelight flickering between them. The reflection of the warm light shimmered in Emily's eyes as Nathan reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "You know," Nathan said, his voice soft, "when I first met you, I never thought I deserved happiness." Emily squeezed his hand lightly, her voice as gentle as the ocean breeze. "And now?" Nathan smiled. "Now, I know happiness isn't about what we deserve. It's about whether or not we're brave enough to take it." Emily studied him for a long moment, then whispered, "Then take it, Nathan." A few weeks later, at the grand opening of his foundation's new headquarters, Nathan stood before a crowd, preparing to speak, but his eyes focused only on two people, Emily and Leo. "They may say that when you lose something, life has a way of giving you something even better," Nathan began, his voice steady yet full of emotion. For me, that something better is my family. Leo sat in the front row, waving excitedly at Nathan. Emily stood beside him, her eyes shining with pride and love. Nathan took a deep breath, his heart pounding as he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. The crowd fell silent as he lowered himself onto one knee before Emily. "You helped me believe in life again," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Emily Dawson, will you marry me?" Emily gasped, her breath hitching as she stared at him. Tears welled up in her eyes, but for a moment she couldn't speak. The entire world seemed to still. Nathan held his breath, waiting, hoping. And then, with a trembling smile, she nodded. "Yes, Nathan, yes, I will." As Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger, Leo let out an excited cheer. The little boy jumped out of his seat, rushing onto the stage and throwing his arms around Nathan. "So does this mean you're my dad now?" Leo asked, his voice filled with hope. Nathan smiled, pulling the boy into an even tighter hug. "If you'll have me." Leo nodded eagerly, his small arms clutching Nathan's neck tightly. "I've been waiting for this forever." The audience erupted in applause, but for Nathan, only two people in the world truly mattered. As the applause faded and the night sky stretched endlessly above them, Nathan glanced down at Leo, who was still clinging to his arm, and Emily, who was gazing at him like he was her entire world. He had spent years believing he was broken and worthy of love, but tonight, as he held the hands of the two people who had changed his life, he finally understood. He wasn't broken, he was whole.